Audio check. Check 1, 2.
Good evening. Welcome to the April 1st BAR meeting. Hopefully there will be no April Fools. I'm David Price, Chairman of the BAR, and some of you may be here for the first time, so we will be reviewing the submittals in the order in which they were received by the town office. And our charge is to consider each project on the basis of aesthetics, design, architecture, height, mass, and scale in harmony with the historic district. We have the option of giving full approval to a submitted plan, approval with agreed upon amendments, conceptual approval to proceed with further plans to be submitted later, and on rare occasions to turn down a project. We try and work with the submittals to get their project in line with the needs of the historic district and also in line with the presenter's desires. And we welcome comments from about any of the projects. And if you wish to make a comment about any of the projects other than your own, there's a sign-up sheet outside the door. And our first order of business is to approve the minutes from our last meeting, March 4th, which have already been sent out to the board. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve them.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, Tim? Yes?
Yes.
Rachel?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Nancy Jean?
I abstain. I was not here.
Okay, and I, a yes. So no one has asked to make comments. Okay. So the first order of business is this is old business, is 100 East Carolina Avenue. This is a resubmittal with changes requested by the BAR.
If nobody is present, I'll just briefly go over the changes they made. So per the BAR comments at the last meeting, they updated their plan. So they've moved the HVAC unit to the left elevation as was suggested by the BAR. The finished floor elevation was increased to 2.5 feet above grade. I think it was previously 8 inches. They are doing a stucco foundation. They added band boards to the side and rear elevations, and they altered the porch and side elevations in accordance with board comments. They also provided a window detail confirming that the windows will be simulated divided light.
Anyone have any comments on the board? No.
I don't really see the band detail that we talked about looking at the elevations. Is there a different place I should look?
It is pretty subtle, just this small board here.
Okay. I would say that does not address what we talked about.
It's also not along the front of the porch either. It's just the, I guess it's the flooring within the stucco below it. On the other hand, they have a nice window detail. I like the trim.
Go to the left elevation. I was kind of wondering about there being shutters on all the windows except those two.
I don't see any shutters.
On the left elevation, Tim.
They can stand off. But
Remy, the window that's wider and with a higher sill, what is in that room?
It looks like that would be the master bedroom. Or the family room.
Oh, it's not the one behind the tub?
You're right, it would be that one. Yeah, it does look like it's the bathroom.
Remy, I can't read the details, but what is the porch flooring? It looks like it's brick where it sticks out on the side elevation. Is it, or is it something else? Like there's something at the top of the tabby. Oh, so there's stucco, and then there's, I guess, a porch floor.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the material of it is specified or if I'm just not seeing it.
Those wood boards?
Oh, it says brick row lock.
What are y'all looking for?
I was just wondering what,
That
Is that the brick roll up?
yeah,
Existing slab?
it just looks little. And can you go to the side elevation and then zoom in right where the porch detail meets the trim detail down the side? Oh, it's just a single board?
needs a drip cap. Needs a drip cap.
Well, I'd like to note that they have made a significant improvement, and they have tried to address our concerns by raising the floor height and having a more substantial foundation height. And they've also tried to address our concerns by adding a shutter detail and the row lock brick. But I'm not sure that these details work very well together and create a kind of look that we're thinking. Like, for example, the brick row lock is some inches below where the single band of the side trim is. And it looks odd, and I'm not sure. I don't think it's a well coordinated design where the details are integrated into what it's supposed to look like.
What would you change on that?
Normally, when I'm thinking about porches, I try to have you know, there's where the porch floor is, maybe there's a band underneath so that there's some depth to what the trim would be on the porch. And then when that goes around the corner, it ties into, in some way in proportion and height to the side band. And that the side band, as David noted, is usually more than just a single piece of cementitious trim glued up on the side, that it's supposed to look like, you know, that there's a cap, that's where the water drips, and that there's some texture and definition, and that it has some height relationship to what is on that porch. Like it's supposed to tie it together and make it feel like there's the foundation and then there's,
More connected.
yeah. So it doesn't appear to be meeting that criteria that we have, that it fits the, or more closely matches historical detailing and proportions. And I also just personally find it very odd that that window by the tub then has horizontal lights and all the other ones have vertical lights. And that it's, those two windows are further exaggerated by being different with no shutters. And it, I understand why they don't, because they're squished together and you can't fit them in. But again, just thinking about standardizing details and proportions.
If that squarish window, the smaller height window, were made narrower and the same same proportion as the other ones, then you could fit shutters on both those windows.
Yeah,
But what's behind that, that shorter one?
it's a bathtub. It's a bathtub.
So you just make it narrower.
Yeah.
Bobby, but have to turn on the microphone there.
I'm really sorry, traffic was so bad.
No, traffic ban.
Mhm. 30 minutes from.
Again, I apologize.
And before you came in, we were just addressing the fact that you had changed a lot of the things that we asked you to do.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
I don't know if you caught that or not.
I could hear you while I was walking up and then I heard you talking about the shutters and so. I know we added the width of the pad on there, the window trim details, the stairs.
I'm sorry, what, I shouldn't
No,
have a private conversation. I
no,
apologize for
you're
that.
totally
No,
fine.
my thought was, it's a really big improvement, so thank you for what
Thank
you've
you.
done. We probably think that there's probably a few more details for you to tweak that in. so
Okay.
that it really looks great.
Okay,
And Just, I'll just speak first.
okay,
Two things that kind of stand out, well, three things I'm gonna point out that kind of stand out to me. One, the bathtub window, I understand why it's a different size, but from a visual perspective on a very kind of balance with all the shutters, that's just kind of clunky. Right?
okay,
And so I would say, try to relook at that scenario right there and try to solve that by either making that window narrow like the other ones in the same size and spacing them out a little bit to get shutters, or I'm not exactly sure how to solve that, but with everything else having shutters and then those two just kind of clumped in there, I think that's a little detail that needs to be cleaned up.
okay,
The windowsill, I appreciate you showing that on there. It's super helpful. But just to clarify, we do want a traditional sill detail. So that's a larger nose piece like on a historic house, not a band.
okay,
And so that's not a 6-inch band around the bottom. It needs to be a sill detail. If you want to put a board underneath that sill detail, that's perfectly okay, but it needs that sill. That makes
Okay.
sense?
yes,
I thought, isn't that detailed?
Well, it's hard to tell because when you look at the window trim detail there, it just says 6-inch, it says sill. But that could also be interpreted as just a flat band, which we
Okay.
don't want a
Mhm.
picture frame band. around.
Mhm.
So really, typically, a traditional window sill detail would be detailed, drawn differently than that. So that would be the other one. And then if you don't mind going back to the side elevation, maybe I think was helpful. Where that band and the steps come together, the porch come together. Because there's that step down and brick nosing, that's still just kind of clunky right there. And so my suggestion to that would be maybe try dropping the band down so it aligns with the bottom of the brick windowsill. Or with the bricks nosing going around the porch. And that means that band's gonna have to drop down onto the foundation face a little bit, but I think if you make the band a little bigger or drop it down a little bit, you can kind of tie those two together
Okay.
and.
So
add
you're
that
talking
as
about
well.
that corner right there.
Well, it occurs at the back
Right.
too, but
Okay.
it's where that comes together right above the V in elevation. That's where that comes together. It's just not proper. And
Okay.
so if you guys can get those three things, I think those are the only three things that I saw. So
And
I'll
that-
turn it over to my board members.
And that board needs to have an additional detail with drip cap.
Right, not just the band, but the cap detail.
Okay.
Just look at the details on old houses. It's the same thing.
Yeah, we did. We actually drove down here and took some pictures of some houses and so, but I can understand where you're coming from.
We want to look like an old house. when you-
Right,
Like
right.
it's been here for, 60
Right.
years.
right.
But it has improved a
Thanks,
lot and
Thanks.
and you're well on the road to
thanks.
getting it right.
Okay.
Who else? I don't wanna.
Good.
Are these things that we can let staff approve if carried out, or do we need to look at them again?
With you, Rachel.
I think that the comments are very clear. And I think, Remy, that you could look at them. And I would just note that bathroom window also doesn't have a cap at the top, so please just make sure all of them have that standard detail. But I would think that this is something that could be approved at a staff level.
So then if everybody else agrees, I'll make a motion, and I'll try to lay out those things I just said, that motion.
Yeah.
So that Remy and staff can kind of make sure that I'll check those things very closely. So, I would, that we approve as submitted with the following notations.
Perfect.
That way you don't have to drive back to Somerville from Mount Pleasant in a month, so.
You have no idea.
Oh, yes, we do.
Hear stuff. I even emailed Remy because I'm like, I'm on my way.
We completed that. All
It's a
right, so,
nightmare.
fixing the windowsill detail to traditional windowsill, nosing piece.
Right,
Correcting the bath window and the separation between the adjacent windows so that they are in conjunction with the other windows on that elevation.
okay,
And then, adding a drip cap to the band, dropping the band down so it is in line with the bottom, so that the bottom of the band and the bottom of the brick nosing that occurs on the porches are in line. So,
And what about
the
the
window-
shutters?
I'm sorry, what's that?
What shutters did you?
What's y'all's preference on the shutters? I didn't.
You
focus in.
were commenting
Well,
about.
I think they all need to have shutters. So on the sides of elevations that have shutters, they should all, windows should have them. So you'll have to figure out the spacing and the size. and so you
Right.
can accomplish that.
And that bathroom
And,
window
and I,
have the piece at the top.
Yeah.
Yes, the bathroom windows should have them. I'm assuming
Okay.
this got left off, but. Good point. Thank you.
can I also add that one piece that if they're working on any changing of window size, that they then have the similar proportion of the grids?
Yes. You're referring to this.
Correct. I'm
Yeah.
specifically referring like the bath window has a different proportion in the grids that doesn't match the others. So whatever solution is proposed, the grids have similar proportions.
That window we're talking about doesn't need to be the same size, but the same proportion, right?
I think they can offer what works depending on how they need to solve this elevation, but those are just the parameters we're putting out.
We have a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor, Tim,
Yes.
Okay. Jane?
Yes.
Nancy? Jane?
Yes.
And I also, yes. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for working with us.
No, thank you so much.
Bye.
Okay, next project is 114 West Richardson Street. And this is a request for approval of changes made in the field and renewal of a COA for detached garage.
Richland Street,
Richland,
What did I say?
Richardson.
Richardson.
I get them confused sometimes too.
Just to quickly summarize the staff report, the only change made on the approved house is a chimney added to the left elevation. Everything else was built per the approved plan. The renewal of a COA is for a detached garage on the property that was approved separately. That plan for the garage has not changed since that approval. It's the same plan they submitted in that initial application.
Is this just where we're approving the chimney?
Yeah, just approving the chimney, the change made in the field.
Yeah, the fireplace was originally in the house, and when I realized it was taking up so much space, we just bumped it out outside the house.
It looks fine.
I think it looks
Yeah,
fine.
looks good.
Okay, right.
I'll make a motion that we accept as constructed.
I'll second.
Those in favor, Tim?
Aye.
Jane? Nancy,
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
Me, yes. Now on to the renewal of the COA for the garage,
Yes,
detached
sir.
garage.
The preface, I've started this. After I got approval, I went ahead and got the permit. I did the slab. And then I paused with the lumber prices going the way they were. I slowed down for a little bit and everything expired. So I had to, here I am resubmitting. So the slab is in place.
The only thing I saw here were the garage doors themselves. And it's hard to tell, because I know this is great paper that you're drawing on, so.
Yeah, there's a,
What were you submitting again?
there's a detail. I think it's on the last page of the doors. Yeah, very last page. Starting at the second.
48.
Yeah, it's all the way through. No, should have it.
Were you planning to do,
Just a panel. the
Carriage.
Panel doors. I've got if y'all want to look at it, I've got it right here.
Sure, yeah. Good, good.
It's gonna have the
Hardware.
Yeah.
straps on it, the hardware. So this is the.
Right, yes.
Clear glass.
Yes. So I'm gonna suggest that I like the garage fine, other than I think that it should be the door that has a carriage style look to it. And so that's a different door instead of the panels across the front, you know, it looks like it's a pair of doors, like a carriage door,
Sure.
but it opens just like your.
Well, that's kind of what I was going for with the straps.
With the strap, yeah,
Yeah,
with that.
that won't give it to them straps.
So it
they-
has
they'll
to have
make
the
it- they make
detail
it-
in the middle.
Yes, they make a door that looks like a carriage door. And that's typically what we were asking people to put in. Sorry, I don't have exact
I
reference.
know what you're referring to, though. I got an idea what you're looking for.
So the middle window would disappear.
Yeah, and see, actually, yeah, see that's not, I don't know if Molly submitted the right drawings, because this has got, see, this has got. That's got pulls.
Yes, right. And so
See
it,
how
it
that
may have
looks?
4 windows and then it'll have a divider, something that looks like.
It looks
it's
like a divider.
Right.
Mhm.
So I'm
It's
just
like
gonna,
hardware on the sides to make it.
Mhm.
yeah, exactly.
The impression.
So I'm just gonna say that if you guys are okay, my motion would be we extend it, but the garage doors will be carriage style. And not the ones that are currently drawn or submitted.
Okay. I'd agree with that.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Tim,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Nancy Jean?
Yes.
And I also, yes.
Okay. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Mhm.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Good to seeing y'all.
You too.
Okay, the next one is 206 South Gum Street.
The applicant for this project called me just before the meeting started to let me know that he was sick and wouldn't be able to make it. So just a brief summary is that the existing siding on this house is of mixed material. There's, I think, 4 different types of siding that exist on it currently. He is hoping to replace it all with a hardy product, 8 1/4 inch reveal to match the existing reveal of the siding there. And he would like to do a deep ocean blue color. And I believe that is all the information he has
That'd be
provided. so
with
far.
white trim.
Sorry,
That would be with white trim like the color submitted.
yes, sir, yeah.
Current siding is 8 inches, maybe it's 14.
8 1/4, as far as I know, is what was relayed to me.
I believe the one he picked out has a little bead on it. Can you go to the last page and pick that one more time?
Hmm.
Hmm.
And he sent a smooth texture, so it won't have that grain like you see.
Yeah, he was having trouble finding a spec sheet of the exact product that his contractor had selected for it. He sent this as an example of it, but I was assured, and per the contract with the contractor, it's a smooth finish.
With the bead edge,
I don't believe there's a bead edge. At least that wasn't
that was,
clarified.
this is just for color.
This is just for color and context.
Not have
Not that I'm aware of, not per the contract submitted, but you can certainly make that a condition and I can confirm that at a staff level.
I mean, the current house doesn't have a beaded edge, so I don't know that
Mhm.
needs to be there. I'm not opposed to it, but I also don't know that.
I feel the same.
Beg your pardon?
I feel the same, that a beaded edge is not required. The existing house doesn't have it. And that the plain board 8 inches high would very closely match what was original.
So then make a motion. I hate to make all the motions.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I want to move it along. I'll make a motion that we approve as submitted with the smooth siding and no
No
bead.
bead,
edge.
bead.
And this color.
In this color with
Mhm.
white trim. We'll
Mhm.
just specify the trim's white.
I'll second.
Okay.
I'm your echo.
Tim,
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Jane.
Yes.
Nancy Jean.
Yes.
I also, yes. And now we have 114 West Fifth South Street.
This is a very straightforward staff report. No issues zoning wise with the proposed plan enclosing within the existing footprint. Per the application, all the materials on the enclosure will match existing materials on the home.
There any questions? It's pretty simple. We're just gonna bump the wall out, stay under the existing roof line. We've worked with a structural engineer to make sure we can do that. And it will look exactly as it does now. It will just be moved out. It's approximately 5 feet that it moves out and it sits under the sill of the roof line. So we just need a little more,
A little more space.
little smaller cottage than we thought.
Downsizing wasn't quite.
Downsizing is hard.
Yeah, I think it looks good. Of course, I like it. I lived in it.
Somebody other than Tim want to make a
Exactly.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the plans as submitted.
second?
I'll second this.
Okay, all right, Tim,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Both from Folly Beach.
Nancy Jean,
Yes.
and I, yes, also.
Thank you so
Then you
much.
want to talk about it longer so you don't feel like you wasted your time?
No, it's okay. We're headed back. I have, my brother's here from Arizona
Oh,
and y'all don't remember this, but the first time we submitted this cottage, we were at Halls and we were doing things remotely. And my brother was here then too.
Oh,
and I thought,
gosh.
Oh, my God. He has fun in Somerville. So
Ah.
thank y'all. Any other, no questions at all? Thank you.
Thanks. All right, next one is 333 Old Poster.
This is a re-roof request for a new standing seam metal roof in black. The significant color change is the reason that it requires BAR approval.
It needs a roof.
yes.
Is that the panel profile? Yeah. Thanks for bringing the sample.
Mhm.
And in your application said 20-inch wide or 18-inch wide, and we're usually like 16, isn't it? Tim?
That's a
Yes.
little wide.
This is 17 inches.
From side to side, so you actually measure, I think, center to center, it probably is 6.
Yeah, that's it. But in this, it says 1.5 inch seam, but that looks more like a 1 inch seam. That doesn't look like an 1.5 inch seam.
I guess it's been a while since I've done this. But an inch and a half, I can't.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, I like that panel. I was gonna complain about the 1.5 inch seam, but if it's that panel, I think that's okay with from the seam height. Because that's appropriate.
I don't have a better.
Yeah, so,
It does not look like an inch and a half.
no, it's an inch.
Okay.
And by the way, I don't know if it makes a difference, but I guess I've got off on everything. This is actually 26 gauge instead of the 24. The manufacturer that I talked to about this recommended a 26 gauge and a mechanical interlock because of the age of the house. Gives a little bit of motion, movement in case we need it. When we bought this house, it was barely standing. It's better now than it was. It does move around.
No, the roof will hold it together.
Yeah, this one. We've got to remove all the cedar shakes, this under the, there's a 5D roof on there now. Right. We have to remove all the cedar shakes and then put this one.
So, that says 24. I mean, when you go to a 28, you're gonna get some oil canning.
26.
Right, you'll get some oil canning out of that.
But we will, I mean, we're gonna have plywood down all the way across all that.
I think,
You'll still
you know,
see-
when you specify for the people that you're going to put it up, you say 16-inch with 1-inch seam,
Okay.
rather than our guessing.
Yeah, and I guess, David, if that's a pre-manufactured panel.
Right.
And that's 17,
Well,
are you okay
but
with that? Because
I was looking at the spec sheet, it said
Mhm.
a broad range of,
Did it?
of
Okay,
widths
Perfect.
from
perfect.
like
Now,
14 to 20.
do you have the spec sheet?
I believe that might be on the 305 Buford application, the next application. They submitted a spec sheet for their product. I don't think I got a specific spec sheet for this project.
Good product.
So for my brain, we're approving 26 gauge, 1-inch seam height and 16 inches from seam to seam.
Well, that's what I'm kind of questioning David on, because I think that's going to be a panel manufactured at 17 inches.
Okay.
And he would not be able to use that panel.
Yeah.
So I
Okay,
don't
well, I'm
think
just,
that looks like a field that.
I'm just saying that I saw a spec sheet submitted with this.
I think Remy was saying that's the next application.
Yeah, that's the next item.
Oh.
It's also a standing seam
Oh,
re-roof.
okay.
Yep.
Was close to 16 inches.
You want 16, I'll go 16.
But if you can get a 16, we'd rather see 16.
You got it.
But if you can't, I would say, I think
can
the
get
one
it.
you got. So,
Not a problem. Happy to do that.
And the 1-inch.
And the 1-inch seam height.
1-inch seam. We're more emphatic on the seam height. than-
Yeah, we'll put 24. I mean, we'll go with 24.
That's okay. I recommend it, by the way, that's just. You'll get just a lot more wall canning out of the 26 and the 24. And so, while it's okay for us, I personally, I don't like a lot of wall canning.
No, I agree.
So
I agree.
that's just a personal thing. Okay. All right, so I'll make a motion that we approve as submitted, or somebody else want to make.
I was gonna do it, go
Please.
down the line. I will make a motion that we approve as submitted with hopefully close to a 16-inch seam to seam, 1-inch height, and the change to 26 gauge, if that's how it comes. We can live with 24 gauge,
Or,
either one.
24 gauge.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor, Tim,
yes.
Rachel, Jane,
Yes.
Nancy Jean,
Yes.
and me also. Yes.
Thank you very much.
All righty. Good luck. Yeah.
Okay, 305 Buford Street.
So 305 Buford Street is proposing the 16-inch panel with 1-inch seams.
That's where you, the
That's-
measurements,
Yeah.
exactly what we wanted.
But, you know, this is one, I'm just opposed to this. I think the shingles look way better than I think. I had to do that to somebody.
April Fools.
Put a sock in his mouth.
I think that's good.
What is the color of the?
It's galvanized steel. I have pictures. Our neighbors has like a similar color to it.
Oh, lovely.
No, they were so sweet.
It looks great.
Mhm.
So now the panel you're using is which? Panel? Look for that detail. So it's a flat panel, which is better. Was that other panel that you showed this picture of?
Yeah,
has
it was like
a
the
rib,
closest
and
color.
We're trying to get away from that rib.
Okay,
So,
yes, not, yeah, that was just the color.
Sure.
Cause it said to pick, so we scouted the neighborhood.
yeah. I think you already heard us 16-inch panel.
Yep.
One inch.
Double check it, it's all.
16-1 and we're good to go.
Yep.
Okay, whose turn?
I'll make a motion that we approve as submitted.
Second,
But let's specify those two
Yeah.
dimensions because it wasn't specified yet.
The 16-inch
But
and the 1-inch seam height.
Mhm.
Yes.
I'll second.
There you go.
okay. Tim,
yes.
Rachel,
Yes.
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Jean, and I, yes.
Well, thank you guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye guys.
Appreciate that.
Okay, 627 West Richardson.
The applicant has provided a brief presentation for this one that they'd like to start off with, so I will let them take it away.
Good evening, board.
Good evening.
Thank you for your time. We've owned this house for 10 years. It's our first historic home. So was intended and still is intended as our retirement home. Plans haven't changed. So in the last 10 years, let's see, this is our fifth BAR appearance before you. Started in 2016 and we put a brick wall around the exposed cinder blocks supporting the house underneath. They were quite unsightly and we were able to achieve approval for that. At the same time, we also subtly changed the color of the home to accent the details in it, the Victorian trim work and things like that. It was white on white and nothing popped on it. So we didn't go extreme with the dark color, but we were able to get that approved. We added 300 feet of black metal fence around with quite a bit of masonry work as well with columns and entryways, gates to the property to replace the picket fence that was there. In our feeling, it was rotting. It was extremely long, 300 feet of picket. And so it really detracted from the house. And there's a few pictures coming up in just a minute of that. 2021, we added a carriage house to the back that we believe it was appropriately sized for the house. And the details in it mimic, but don't copy the main structure. It's set at a respectable distance away from the house as well to give the house the respect that it's earned over the years. Before we moved in, we did a full 1-year interior renovation. We didn't live there. It was not in good shape. But as Audrey says, frequently it has good bones. The main part of the house has excellent bones. And we left all the trams and windows with all the yucky paint where somebody has slopped it, for the most part. The fireplace is untouched, the mantles, everything in the main house, we want it to be the way it was. And as you'll see, that has some limitations. We didn't drop any walls to create open spaces like a lot of people wish to do these days. But we just want to convey to you that we have the best interests of this house in mind. We all care about it, as do all of you. So we're not taking this initiative lightly in any way, and appreciate your feedback on the project. Remy, thank you. Thank you. We were extremely blessed about 6 months ago when one of our neighbors discovered this photograph on eBay from New York State.
Wow.
In a small pamphlet. And for years, 10 years, we've been talking about what did it look like? What's original? And lo and behold, a lot of the features of the home are original.
Wow.
To include the decorative floral carvings above the windows, you can see there, the corbels, the shape of sorry, I'm not an architect, physicist, but the shape of the supports for the porch are keyhole shape, just like they were. The balusters going across are the same shape and details today. It was remarkable. So this is a real blessing. As you may know, Mayor Richardson built this house after he moved his family from Charleston. And the reason he moved his family from Charleston in 1886 was there's a little girl to the far left there. She's 5 years old at the time. She contracted diphtheria as a young child and had breathing ailments. So they moved from Charleston to Somerville for the fresh pine air, and so on. So that's why they moved here. And then 5 years later, he was elected mayor, 3 terms as mayor, served for 24 years between 1891 and 1932. Quite an influence. So, you know, to the point where the street name was changed from, I got to do this slowly, West First South Street to Richardson Avenue in both directions. So, there's actually the children, the mayor's wife was in the middle there in the white dress. Her name was Ioretta. And the boy next to her to the right with a small hat on, he died in the house at the age of 21 of an unknown illness. But the lady, the teenager, 14 years old, laying on the grass like a teenager would, she was Daisy Richardson. And Daisy, 5 years later, formed a women's literary group because of the limited means of education within the town for women. And that literary group grew, and when she was in her mid-20s, she helped founded the Timrod Library. So she lived in the home. She was a teacher here. She lived in the home. She acquired it from her father when she got, later on, not when she got married. That was 2 houses down. But anyway, Daisy was very influential. There's still a Daisy Door. That's the name of the man she married. There's the free public school gives out a $8,000 per year scholarship, the Daisy Door Scholarship. And here we are. She died in 1959. But she lived in the house, and the house is usually called the Door House. So just to give you a little bit of appreciation, I don't mean to carry on. We can, and that's not our charter here today. Next slide. The family, as you drive by on West Richardson, has their own plot. The mayor's on the left, and the wife is in the middle, the son who died. And then there's a big tombstone, and that's the little girl with diphtheria. She suffered from the ailment in her entire life and died in her 40s. But in that time, she was a national educator. She has textbooks on human nutrition. It was a pioneering field during that time. And I invite you to drop by and visit. It's quite interesting. So next slide, please. So if we look at today's version or today's, a picture of the house compared to back then, you see there's been a lot of changes. But the changes have mainly been to the rear of the house, away from the street, as you can see. Number one up there is there was a room addition that was added at some point. And that wall length back there was extended to accommodate a back stairwell as well. So it grew in depth. And perhaps the bay window was added at the same time. We don't know. Number two there, you'll note that there's a building structure there. It is the old kitchen house, and it's still there, but not at the same location. It was pushed against the house at some point in time and adjoined to the house in the rear. A completely different type of building, pushed up against the pretty house. So, let's see, number three of the bay window. Number four, the main entry was actually to the front of the house, shown by number 5. And there was no porch on the side. So, and then lastly, number 6, if I may, there were 2 porch roofs, not one. There were 2 separate porches. It wasn't wrapped around at all. And how do you feel about a striped roof change to our house? Yeah, we looked at as close as we could, and we think it's fabric. And some generous person at some point put pure copper on the bottom, the top of the main house, but nowhere else in the house. The bay windows, tin or steel, that kind of thing. But it's come a long way, and the house grew to the back in the past, and what we hope to introduce today is an extension of that. Next slide, please. This is our only old picture of that, other old picture of the house, if you call 2002 old. I personally don't, but you can see somebody basically threw down a stairway, no handrails, and there we have it. Fortunately, someone before us built this beautiful staircase that really gives the house a lot of character. So kudos to them. Next slide, please. Here's what the house looked like when we bought it. And when we were done with all the work outside, that's pretty much what it looked like. And you can see the color change really helped the corbels pop along the top, etc. Next slide, please. Next slide. Oh, thank you. Thank you. You know, it was in concert with the BAR, so it's kudos to everyone, and we're doing our best. So here's what I alluded to earlier with the long white picket fence, and really the metal fence allows a view of the garden. It actually makes the house look taller and more grand, and just all these little subtle things that were not really intended up front, but it sure looks a lot better in our opinion. Next slide, please. Could you go back one just for a minute? I wanted to point out that corbels are only on two sides of the house. That left side facing West Carolina, we could see the shadows, the paint shadows of where they used to be, but the corbels were gone. So a more recent project, and we got that approved by Becca, and Audrey found a man that would hand make exact replicas out of wood of all the newels, and we slowly accumulated those and had them installed. The COVID slowed us down in finding workers that could install those, but if you can go to the next slide, Remy, you can see how much better the house looks now. And we added 11 to the left side and then wrapped them around to the back. They were also missing on the back of the house. And the building below that is the old kitchen house that we talked about earlier. Just to give it some appeal, that, two sides of the house were really well done, and there's another two sides that aren't really very picturesque as we would like. Next slide, please. Back to architecture, Beth in the Pineland Village, she makes an emphasis that this is a one-of-a-kind house, old house in Somerville. And she calls it a single house, which I guess is a Charleston term, where the front door, the main hallway, and the main stairway are on the extreme left of the house. In our case, on the extreme left of the house. That's why the main stairway used to be there. The entry is just straight ahead, and it still is today, as opposed to most homes. It's centered and then there's room to the left and right. The structure to the left was an old carriage entrance, and we were able to find evidence that Mayor Richardson would ride his horse home, and we'd dismount the horse on that landing there into a mudroom just inside the front door. So, next slide, please. Okay. As we said, we didn't change any of the wall structures of the original home. In the front room's been used over the years as not by us, but as a music room and things of that sort. The people we bought the house from had it as a formal living room, and we kept it that way, formal dining room in the middle. And then a family room where the blue squares are. But each of these rooms are 14 by 14. So we don't have area for an informal eat-in area. We don't have room. We now have an immediate family of 8 with our 2 sons and their children. There's nowhere for us to really comfortably sit. The rooms will accommodate and watch TV and things like relax. Yeah, yes, we could put 8 at our dining room table, but we don't want to sit there all night while the Super Bowl's on and things like that. But so that blue square in the middle represents about 60 square feet, with which we have to put a sofa and some chairs and things in. And there's no informal eating area, so we put a table in the bay window, and it's very congested, and so we've been struggling over the years. It's just not been, you know, we're very cramped. We're very cramped.
Same. And on top of it, it's surrounded by windows and doors, which is a wonderful problem. So we have to have a walkway around all the furniture on top of it. So it's just, we're cramped in that space.
And then all the rooms replicate straight up. So all the rooms are, 14 by 14, moderately okay, but there's just no central gathering space in the room. The fireplaces intrude as well. And I think it's all. Next slide, please.
That's good.
One of the things we've never been pleased with is when that addition was added way back when to the second story, it made like kind of a racquetball court appearance to the house with a big wall, a plain wall, and none of the deck
Feels unfit.
unfinished. The eave is not as, doesn't come out as long, so there's no way to put, the corbels like we did everywhere else. The kitchen house with its, cabin-like appearance was pushed there. So it created a menagerie of roofs. And we've had quite a bit of drainage problems back there. 4 roofs drain and funnel right over that back door. And there's been significant, we had huge repairs to it when we bought the house. They're all coming back again. Last night during the rain, we opened the door. You couldn't see through. It was a virtual waterfall. We have extra large gutters back there, and they don't seem to help at all. And with the crimping of the roof, I forget what we call that. The seam, yes, thank you. The seam of the roof, there's no way to put diverters and things like that on it. It just has to overflow to the next, seam interval and things like that. So it's just not attractive. The house is attractive for 180 degrees, but not 360 degrees. And from Carolina, you can see the back of the house fairly well. So next slide, please, Remy. Excuse me. You have the elevations and everything else. We just wanted to, at this point, I have to refer to my notes. I'm sorry. The 3 prominent characteristics of the existing home are the 7-inch lap siding on the exterior walls, a single and double hung windows with shutters, the low slope metal roofs, corbels along the upper roof, and a wraparound porch like we talked about. Our design strategy for a room addition was, one, it should be located near the rear of the house to give the main portion of the house, the main house, allow it to stand on its own and not be interfered with. And our idea was to complement the existing home and also at the same time increase the usability and comfort of our home interior on an interior basis as well. We wanted to make the new addition complement the existing home without copying it. We felt like that would interfere with the original intent of the house, to simply copy the balusters and all the other adornment. So our design team thought that, a separate small structure that sat away from the house just slightly and with the scale of detailing of the home to complement it, but not compete with it. Next slide, please. Oops, that's the one I wanted. Okay, to do this, the new structure, we kept the massing. I had to look that term up and I now know what it means. The massing lower than the existing 2-story home, but taller than the 1-story section. Simpler and smaller corbels were added on the addition, as it is secondary to the main house. A porch was added facing the driveway for access from the garden. And It continues the porch element across the house. The detailing is simpler than the main porch because it's secondary to the main house. The windows in the new addition are double hung and have the same grid pattern as the main house, but do not have a transom as it is secondary to the main home. The new addition will feature a metal roof, color to match the house, a brick foundation wall, wood porch flooring, and lap siding to complement the main house. Okay. For the drainage issues, there's a dotted line, shadow line in the roof that there's actually a space there for water to flow off the house and collect it without it all going to the back door area. There's also a roof that joins across to the gable roofing of the kitchen house that allows it to retain its shape and form, but divert water. So the back door actually comes forward about 7 feet towards the viewer of the elevation. And it's a much more substantial, wider entryway. And that roof will all drain into the gravel driveway and be dissipated from there. So there's no beds that will be eroded or anything like that. So we like that idea very much, just to be able to carry in groceries and whatnot. Very pleased. Originally, Audrey's concept was, what about an orangerarium or an orangery? Sorry, my instructor was an orangery type thing that's found in, mainly in Britain and Victorian homes where a separate structure is adjoined, but it was heavily favored with windows all the way around and typically a glass roof as well. Not interested in that with our pollen issues around here, but no glass roof. But anyway, the abundance of windows would overlook the garden at the back of the house, and Audrey's planted over 200 shrubs and trees in the 10 years we've been there, and the garden has been fully restored to its, what we think was its original grandeur and things like that. So we're excited to have that kind of perspective and view. Right now, as you can see, we really don't have any sitting windows that face the garden per se. So next slide, please. Final slide. So in summary, we believe the addition will complement the main house without detracting from it, its original design and appearance from the two main streets. The appearance at the back of the house will be transformed and will be lovely. As I mentioned earlier, it can be seen from West Carolina Avenue, just partially at an angle, but it is, just looking at the elevations, we can tell it's impressive to us. Fix our water issue and provide us a much more livable and enjoyable experience with the home itself. That room will help us do that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
What is the baluster picket detail of your porches?
The small, the detail,
The new one?
I clean them all the time. Let's see. Oh, the new one?
Yeah.
Okay, I apologize. Just a square baluster.
I understand your desire to make it subservient to the main structure, but I find that a square picket can often look very cheap. And it's used a lot in new construction. And I would think there might be a better picket design that would still be subservient to the design on your other porches that would not look like, something out of new construction. Everything else about what you're doing, I love.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I love the big windows too, looking out on the back.
I'll just add a few comments. Y'all done a great job taking care of it. So thank you.
Yeah.
From the town, then from our perspective, you've really poured a lot of love into that house and it looks great. I feel like the addition is well thought out. You've got a gym and you made sure to honor it and to add the modern convenience, which we understand why you would need that. I think it looks great. I do agree with David's comment. And I'm going to add that the porch columns as well. And it's a little difficult in, y'all's diagrams there. And I understand why you want to simplify it, but you don't want to match the other. And I kind of appreciate that and probably agree, but I'm not sure that simplifying it to the place of just square pickets and square columns, I just feel like it's too simple. And so something
More
there-
graceful? Something more
Excuse me?
graceful?
Yeah, something more graceful. That's a great word. Yeah, something more graceful that speaks to the old ones, but also says, hey, I'm not original, I'm new, but I'm still honoring what all the old stuff kind of said.
But you-
So,
You could go to, square columns that are chamfered. That's a detail that would
yeah, that's a simple detail that adds. And
adds a great deal to a column, and then some detail around the Capitol.
Yeah.
Which could be as simple as just piece of trim at the
At the
appropriate
top.
level.
So it doesn't look so abrupt.
yeah,
Mhm.
but it could be round too. I don't know that it
Yeah.
has to be square. I
No,
mean,
but-
I would say, and I hate to say, I would like to see you come back with that. But you've done such a fabulous job and everything that y'all have done out there is so fabulous. But it's also such a jewel that I kind of feel like we probably need to see the last, whatever you guys kind of the direction you go there. But I mean, you've got my full support for everything else.
Yes.
I think it looks great.
Great.
Well done.
Thank you.
I
And
don't know
that,
how the rest of them.
that shouldn't hold up the construction.
No.
I mean, with the, what am I trying to say? The pillars and the,
Yeah, I guess we could approve everything and just say, hey, those two details bring us back your final,
mhm.
before you actually install them.
So they don't
Randy, is
have to
that
hold
okay?
up the whole thing.
Well, you're used to coming in here, so.
It would just need to be approved before their building permit could be issued for the work that they're doing. So it might make more sense to have everything approved under one meeting, under one approval. Rather than separating it out like that, if that makes sense.
Okay. What's your timeline? When are y'all trying to start?
Actually, I forgot to reintroduce Shane to you, Kirsten. He's actually building a new home downtown. He lives down here, so.
Great.
I can't, yeah.
Yeah, I mean. We did like a balustrade detail and column detail.
Yeah.
That's staff. Or do you want to see the?
I kind of feel like we need to see that because it's such a historic house. And,
Understand.
if this was a lesser grade house, I would probably say, yeah, just send that back to staff. But I don't want to delay you guys either, but.
I also think your architect would understand what we are saying very,
Yeah, I'm sure she will.
very well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think whatever you guys want to do with that. Yeah, just to kind of make the two go together a little bit a little better. I think they'd be fine, but
We do have a scheduling conflict for the next board meeting
you do?
next month. Yes, we'll be out of town for 2 weeks.
Gotcha.
Um,
Will your contractor be in
but
town?
Shane can more than represent it. Yes, he's our builder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if Shane can come back, I think that's fine.
Okay.
We appreciate y'all being here, but can certainly do it. And I think it would be a quick approval at that point in time. When do they have to submit by for the next meeting?
Technically by this Friday, but if you want to defer to the May meeting specifically, pending that updated elevation, I can go ahead and put it on the agenda, and I would just need that update. Let me look at my calendar. I would just need that update by April 21st. So if you were able to get to me by April 21st, that would work just fine.
That work okay for y'all?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
Have you checked with your neighbor on Carolina?
No,
Mhm.
still don't talk.
Wow. What a shame.
I think it's a lovely addition, and I just have that one hang up.
No, we appreciate
I
your
think that
feedback
could
and
be easily
certainly
remedied.
understand.
You've been really intentional to make it special and to make it fit the area. That's a big deal for us.
Understand.
So I'm going to ask something that I shouldn't ask you. I'm going to put a seed of doubt in your head and you're going to say, why did he say that? You sure you don't want to make that thing 16 feet wide instead of 14 feet wide, the new addition? Just think about that.
Okay.
You know, we had a room very similar to this on our house, and we actually had this bank of windows just like this. We had 5 windows in a row in the room, and we made it a little bigger when we renovated it. Our window placement is completely different today, but we made it a little bigger. And those couple of feet, it was 14 feet before, and we made it 4 feet bigger but it's a family room. It made a tremendous difference.
Okay.
And when you look at the other elevation, you know, it certainly has the geometry that you could to do it with and still look good, you know? So I don't know, it's just a thought. I'm not trying to mess you up. But since I lived it, I was just like, I saw that 14 feet and I was like, oh, you know, I lived that.
Good
Yeah.
suggestion.
This is Joanne. I'm
Yeah.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
That has nothing to do with our approval, Bob. Several people like, wow, this is so much better. You know, the other ring is always a little tighter.
All right, do we have any other business this evening? Do I have a motion to adjourn? All right. We are adjourned. Turn the recording off.